And we're on. Dean, how are you, mate?
Yeah, all good, mate. Thank you. You?
Yeah, very, very well. Thank you, mate. Look, one of the first things that I'm trying to do with everybody is, have you got your beer to hand?
Beer there, mate.
What are you drinking?
Heineken.
I've gone for. I noticed that we just showed the screen on the last one, and I think if people that are listening on the podcast have no idea what we were showing. Yeah. So yeah, Peroni and Heineken. Yeah, so nice to finally get you on, buddy.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
I suppose one of the things I was going to say actually is that although we're from a very small town where everybody sort of knows everybody, I don't really know you or.
Well, this is what I was going to say to you. I know you, but I don't know if you know me.
Right. Okay.
I'm an old friend of your brother's.
Bobby.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So we'll see. Everybody knows him.
Yeah. Everybody knows Bobby. Shout out Bobby, man. He's a good guy.
Yeah. So everybody knows Bobby. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some of your photos. I know some of the people that you know, but yeah. I don't. Some people will think that that's weird that we're saying we don't know each other from the same town, but because it is such a small town and everybody does tend to know everybody's business. It is odd that I feel like I don't really know you.
Yeah.
But look, we connect.
We were pretty much inseparable as kids, but
really?
Older, it's a bit more. Like, I don't see him too much anymore. But I've seen you see him now and again, and that I still follow him. Still good friends and all that. It's just different lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Well, also that definitely happens when you grow up. You drift off into different avenues and different lives. I'm at the point now where I'm trying to connect with people that I've just sort of not forgotten about over the last sort of 10, 15 years, but just life takes you on a different.
Yeah, just lost touch.
100%. I mean, I moved to Manchester 13 years ago now. So that's when I left town. 13 years. And I used to come back every now and again, but yeah, I've tried to
try not to. I don't blame you, mate. Like you say, it's a small little place.
Yeah.
To be honest, if it weren't for my kids, I think I'd be scarpered as well.
Yeah, for those that don't know, it's a weird little town, and there isn't a lot in the way of opportunity, which is ultimately why I decided I had to leave in the end, because I just saw what friends and people that were slightly older than me that were doing. It was the same routine over and over again, and I thought, nah, this isn't for me. I need to leave.
Fair play, mate.
So look, we connected over Instagram after the first podcast that I did, and you were sharing with me some of the experiences that you've gone through throughout your life, and I'm pleased that you've agreed to come on and share them with us. So look, let's dive straight in, mate. Look, tell us who you are, where you're from, and just a little bit about your upbringing, buddy.
Yeah. So my name's Dean. I'm 31 now. I had my first son when I was 19. Obviously, Mark will show you the viewers a picture of that soon.
Yeah, we'll come on to that.
And we'll get to know that. I'm from Grantham, small little town, like I say, where you're from. I work as a barber usually, but at the minute, it's all shut down. I used to work in the kitchen years ago, so I've been looking to go back in there, man. As much as I don't really feel it that much.
Enjoy that.
You got kitchens.
Yeah.
This is what I always say. If you were a fly on the wall and you watch me in the kitchen, you'd think I was having the time of my life, because I'm singing at the top of my voice, banging out food left, right, and centre. But then when I get home at night, it's just a stressful job, man. You can't sleep. It's like the worry of it's people's food. You know what I mean? So it's got to be perfect. So yeah.
Well,
and then
I used to work in hospitality as well, so I know exactly what you mean.
The hours were brutal as well. Like I used to do 12, 16-hour days, 5-6 days a week and stuff. So. Yeah, it was Christmas one year when I was sort of finishing at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was back in at 10 the next morning. Just like, there'll be more to this, mate, is it?
No.
And then, like say, I had my son as well when I was young, so I was doing that, trying to balance both. You know what I mean? Like working, seeing your kids, and it's hard work, man.
So talk to us about your upbringing. Is in your family life, mum and dad around. That's talk to us about that.
Well, when I was a kid, my mum and dad split up when I was 2, but I had a stepdad from when I was 2 right up till he he died when I was 25, like 5 years ago. But he was always like, when I was a kid, we used to sit and play PlayStation like all day. You know how you do with your elders and that. We used to sit and play it for hours, used to get on. Then I went through that teenage stage of, you're not my dad. Do you know what I mean? You tell me what to do, mate. Do you know what I mean? Couple of little rumbles, and then grown up into my 20s and that, and we made peace. You know what I mean? Got on really well. I was actually quite pleased. I actually split up with my daughter's mum and came back to my mum's house for a bit. And used to come back from work at night, sit and talk to my stepdad, just sit at the table and have a chat for a few hours. And it was nice because like a few months later he died, and it was nice to just get that, like, make peace with him. But after what we went through when I was a teenager, because I was a rogue, do you know what I mean?
We all are.
He was just trying to calm me down, and I was just being an idiot. So it was nice to have that. My mum and dad split up when I was 2. I didn't see much of my dad. I did a bit. I can remember seeing him and that. I can remember him coming to watch me play football a couple of times.
Yeah.
But let's just say my dad liked to drink, man. He lived on his own. He died when I was 11. Sort of resented him for years and years, do you know what I mean? Because he liked to drink and that. Growing up, I always thought, you know what I mean?
While he was alive or after he died?
No, after he died, yeah. Like, just thinking. Because the thing is, like, say, from Grantham, everyone knows everyone. So I'd go places and I'd look the double of my dad as well. So I've walked down the street before and people have come up to me, "Oh, you're John Mitchnew's boy, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." "Oh, you look just like him, you do. You look just like him."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? "Oh, lovely man. He was a really nice man," and that. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, man. I was a kid, you know what I mean? And he drank himself like till it killed him, you know what I mean? But then as you get older, I've sort of been through stuff myself, my own kids, and I sort of understand a little bit. I can understand that he was on his own. He didn't have anything like this, do you know what I mean? Support, other dads, therapy, or anything like that. And he probably just drank himself into a hole.
Yeah, because what was that? The 90s, sort of late 90s, is that?
2001. It's actually, I'll tell you a
2001.
story, to be fair. So 22nd of February 2001, my dad died. But on the 23rd of February, me and my cousin had booked to go to Old Trafford to do the tour. You know, you sit in the changing rooms and do all that.
Yeah.
So my mum didn't tell me about it. My mum's let me go to Old Trafford and have a good day with my cousin, do you know what I mean? Gone there on the coach, I had the best day of my life, do you know what I mean? Old Trafford, come home. It must have broke my mum's heart when I've come in the door, like, big smiles. Yeah, I've had an amazing day. Right, Dean, sit down. I've got something to tell you, do you know what I mean? Your dad's died yesterday. So for years I had that as well. I always had the 23rd in my head as the day he died, but it was the 22nd, do you know what I mean?
Right. And how does that affect you as an 11-year-old? Because I know you mentioned that he wasn't around as much, but you still know him as your dad, right? You still know who he is. Did you speak to him? What was it like growing up with him or without him?
It was crazy, to be fair. Like, so my dad and my stepdad did like a wife swap, yeah.
Okay.
So my dad got with my stepdad's missus, and my stepdad got with my mum. So when I used to go to my dad's at weekends, I'd have like a stepbrother and sister there who used to come to our house as well. Do you know what I mean? So it was like a nice little family. But then my mum and stepdad stayed together right up until stepdad died.
Yeah.
And my dad had troubles and he split up with the woman. So I can remember going to their house for weekends and having Sunday dinners and everything was nice. But then after he split up with his missus, then that's when it sort of spiraled, and we didn't see him. Me and my sister didn't see him too much.
Okay. Like,
I'd see him, because Grantham's a small town, I would see him walking down the street, man, drunk, and he'd walk. I mean, he wouldn't see me and that. He'd be drunk as a skunk, man. So it was.
Does that affect you as a kid?
Yeah, definitely. I remember once I've come home from school and I've seen him like drunk, and actually I was with 2 of my mates who didn't know it was my dad, and they started taking the piss out of him. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, shy, I didn't say anything. I've come home. Me and my mum spoke about this in recent years, and she said, I can remember you coming in the door, sobbing your heart out. And my mum stormed out the door, do you know what I mean? She'd gone to where I saw him, but she couldn't find him nowhere, but she was raging, yeah. And then, yeah, after he died, it did affect me. Like, as I've grown up, I spoke to one of my girlfriends about it, and she was saying, like, I can't believe at 11 years old, like, school didn't sit you down and give you any sort of therapy.
Yeah.
School didn't like help you out at all. Do you know what I mean? It was just, I remember I had a week off school, then it was back to school, back in there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've never, I went to a funeral a few weeks ago, and I went up to my dad's grave and that, and Mum was like, "Whoa, not very often you come up here, is it?" And I was like, "No, I've been up here. It's not like the thing I do." Do you know what I mean? I've never. My sister goes up all the time, but for me, I always think of that. Have you heard that The Streets song? He sings a song, Never Went to Church.
Yeah.
And he talks about the last line of the song. He says, "You left me behind to remind me of you." And that's the way I've always seen it. Do you know what I mean? Like every time I look in the mirror, man, I can see my dad. So I don't need to go to the grave or anything like that. But at the same time, it has affected me in like what I was saying before, where people come up to me and say to me, "You're just like your dad. You're just like your dad." And I think I might look like him, but I'm not like him. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to die at 37, man. I'm not going to. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it does affect you in your head, because you always get that in your head, like, am I like him? Like, it must be a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then sort of for the rest of school, 11 to 16, what are you like there? Are you well behaved or?
No, well, I was a good kid. I always say I was a good kid. I always remember, like, I was one of them kids that all the old ladies used to come up to me like, "Oh, you're such a darling." Do you know what I mean? I'd say it was about 15, 16. That's when it started to go downhill. And I think that's when you need your dad to shit you back into shape. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's what my stepdad tried to do, but I wouldn't listen.
Right.
And so sort of 15, 16 was where I sort of started to be a rogue, and I needed that father figure, really, that role model.
Yeah, and you're, I suppose, are you at the point where you're resenting your stepfather for trying to get involved? Like I think you said, "You're not my dad."
Yeah, I had all that. Yeah, all that. He was, I don't know, he was good. My stepdad, he was always sound. You know what I mean? But he wasn't like my dad. He was a bit more strict and a bit more. I don't know how to explain it, man. We had a couple of tear-ups, you know what I mean? Like, actually, I've had him up against the wall a couple of times. He's had me, but do you know what I mean? Like, he's had to. But he did his best, you know what I mean? To say I weren't his kid, and I'm obviously, and he had his own kids as well who had their troubles, which obviously, so he's got a ex-missus who's got his kids, you know what I mean? So he's got the stress there, like what I deal with now, because I don't live with my kids. It's always in the back of your head. Like, he's looking after me when his own kids have got problems. So must have been hard for him as well, to be fair.
And so moving through to 18, 19, because this was the most amazing thing that when we were talking over social media, when you said, "I had a kid at 19, but I looked really young."
Yeah.
You know, so someone says that, you think, okay, yeah, they look a young 19, but actually you look super young, right? I'm just going to share this photo for everybody that's actually watching it. But yeah, so just bear in mind, 19 here, right?
You know what I think to myself? How did I get girls?
I mean, there's looking young and there's that, right? Yeah, I think you said 14, but I think my partner said 12. I mean, that is super young, right?
Looks like his mum's brought my little brother home from hospital, and I'm posing for a picture of him.
Yeah, meet your brother.
Yeah.
So, okay, so actually, one of the things that really interested me about having you on actually was the fact that I've got like 10 or 11 people lined up coming on, and they're all sort of had kids that are, let's call it a more conventional age, at like late 20s, early 30s, sort of similar age to me. Yeah. So you yourself actually as a kid having a kid.
Yeah, I was kids having kids. Yeah, me and my ex-missus. Yeah, literally kids having kids, mate.
So talk to us about that. So are you in a relationship at that point?
Yeah, we were in a relationship. Yeah. To be fair, like I said, I was a bit of a rogue. I went to prison for a little bit.
Okay.
Came out. Me and Chelsea were together. Obviously, getting out of prison, it didn't take long to get pregnant because I'd been in prison. So literally, she got pregnant pretty much straight away after I got out.
Yeah.
I was still a kid. Do you know what I mean? Like behaving like a kid, acting like a kid all the way up until she had Finn. When she had Finn, that picture's actually at her mum's house. So I moved in with my missus and her mum.
Yeah.
For like the first 6 months or so, which was all right. But I always look back now and think, God, I remember like Chelsea's mum would cook tea and I'd eat tea and I'd do everything. I wouldn't wash the pots, man. I was nowhere near like house trained or anything. Do you know what I mean? I was just. But
You're just
I
a
do
kid.
remember. Yeah, but I do remember as well. So after he was born, Chelsea, my ex-missus, she had to go to like a court case for like personal reasons for herself. She had to go sit in court for like 2 weeks and watch this woman on trial. So her and her mum went to that for 2 weeks, and I was left at home with Finn on my own, like chucked in at the deep end. But I always remember I was dead like, oh, I've got it all worked out. You know, because I was young, I was like, this is easy, man.
Yeah, not a care in the world.
Yeah, just more blasé, like, yeah, man, give him his bottle, change his bum. Do you know what I mean? Not a problem, man. But it was a struggle.
So 18 when you find out you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Are you both the same age?
Chelsea was in the year above me at school, so yeah.
Okay. So roughly the same age.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. How does she tell you you're pregnant, and what are the thoughts straight after?
I remember she rang me up. She was from Lincoln and I was from Grantham. So she's rang me, told me she's pregnant. Obviously, being 19 and being where you're from, it wasn't like, do you know what I mean? There was
everyone has it.
Yeah, everyone's. It wasn't not normal. Do you know what I mean? It was like the norm. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's 19, 20 and having kids. So I was just like, yeah. She's like, do you want to keep it? I'm like, yeah, let's go. Do you know what I mean? I'm ready.
There wasn't even a shadow of doubt.
No, just
from either of you though. Do you both feel like, yeah, we're 100% having it?
I think so. Yeah, to be honest, yeah.
Wow.
I remember as well. We went for a, you know, them 4D scans.
Yeah.
Where you try and find out the sex.
Yeah.
So we went to that and they told us I was having a girl. I've gone to the hospital 3 or 4 weeks later and they said, do you want to know the sex of your baby? I said, I was all cocky, like, oh, we already know. We've had 4D scan and that. Shit, what you having? It was like a girl. She said, no. I pointed at the screen. You could see his little thing between his legs. I was like, yes! She went party for a couple of days, like, what do you mean, yes? You're not happy you're having a girl? I was like, oh, no, it's not like that.
Oh. Yeah, well, do you know what? My wife was like, we'll have a kid, but we're having one. That's it. And I'm from quite a big family, right? So I was like, I quite wanted to have more children. But she was like, you're having one, that's it. So when we found out that she was pregnant, I was just like, please be a boy. Please be a boy. And I'm not even ashamed to admit that when we found out that it was a boy, I cried my eyes out. I was so excited. Yeah. But yeah, I'd have been, as bad as this sounds, I'd have been devastated if it was a girl.
Yeah, don't get wrong. I've had a daughter now, and it's do you know what I mean?
But now, if it was having another one, I wouldn't mind. But where it was only one shot, you know, it had to be a boy.
Every man wants his boy, don't they? 100%. Yeah. Especially, I think, when you're like me and you, and you've grown up without your dad, you want that. You want that father-son relationship. You want that bond that you've never had, man.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So pregnancy. So she's in Lincoln. You're in Grantham.
Yeah.
When you find out you're pregnant, does that change? Do you go to Lincoln, or are you still
like I say, I was still a bit of a tearaway at the time. When out with the lads, up to no good, crime, all of it, right up until she had the baby. Literally, I remember she rang me, and I was out up to no good when she rang me, and I've gone to my mate's house, shoot me over to Lincoln, went over to Lincoln and didn't come back. Stayed over there.
For how long?
For about 6 or 7 months, I lived with her and her mum.
Yeah. And
I was in Lincoln. I struggled a bit coming from Grantham and knowing everyone, where you can walk down the street and it's all right, mate, how you doing? Yeah. To go into Lincoln and it's like being in a fishbowl, not knowing anyone. I was a bit secluded. So yeah, came back to Grantham on my own to begin with. Then Chelsea got a house over here with me. And this is the thing what I was going to say. I wrote a couple of things down, man. Like, I've come on here to explain to Dad, you know what I mean? I'm not the world's best dad, man. I was young. I've made mistakes, you know what I mean? I've done it all. But I've got a good relationship with my son. My son's a good kid as well. So it is what it is. And I came back to Grantham about when Finn won even won. Yeah, Chelsea moved over here. We got a house up Gunnerby, and I was up to no good again. Got caught and ended up going back to prison for 2 years.
Okay.
When my son was 1, which was obviously that was the big. You need to sort your head out, mate.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Chelsea always says, like, I don't know if she still says it now, but she said it back then. She said, I went to prison a boy and came out a man. Like 2 years later, like, do you know what I mean? I literally learned my lesson, and yeah, been all right.
So what age are you at this point going into prison?
I went to court I turned 21 on the Monday and went to court on the Friday.
Okay. So 21 to 23, you're in prison.
Yeah, and Finn's 1. And I did behave myself in jail. So for like the last 9 months of my sentence, I was coming home at weekends.
Yeah.
1 day, 2 days, 3 days. I got to come home for his 3rd birthday. We had a party and that for his 3rd birthday. Used to come home for all that. And then, yeah, when I got out, we moved back in together.
So talk to us about that then. Whilst you're in prison, how, knowing that you've got a small child on the outside and not being able to see him, how does that affect you?
When I was there at the time, it was like, looking back now, it was the best thing that could have happened, but it shouldn't have had to come to that for me to learn my lesson. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was the best thing that could have happened to me, because Chelsea went back to live with her mum, and her mum's like, well, she used to teach child development at college. So it's like the ideal. She's living with her mum, child development. It's like she can get all the advice she needs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, like, you read all these books about kids when they're like 0 to 3, they soak everything up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And learn everything too. It's probably good that he weren't around me the way I was back then. Do you know what I mean? It's probably good that I weren't there, and he got to learn from Chelsea and her mum. And Chelsea didn't like to bring him to see me too much. She did bring him. Like, some people don't agree with it, but she did bring him a few times. Always remember once we were on a visit and he gave me a crisp. He put his fingers in my mouth, and as I bit the crisp, I bit the end of his finger, and he burst into tears, started sobbing. And obviously I've got 2 hours with him in, like, first time I've seen him in 2-3 months, and I've made him cry, man. Honestly, it was like the worst feeling in the world. I was like nearly crying myself, like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
Oh, I've done this. I haven't bit his finger while eating a crisp, but I've hurt Leo, like, accidentally, obviously, and the feeling of guilt, and it's awful. Yeah, it is the worst feeling.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a struggle. And like now, I spoke to him, like I say, he's a bit older now. I don't think he actually remembers it. I think he's just heard people talking about it, like me. I used to be in prison, and he sort of picked up on it. He did say once when he was younger, "Oh yeah, I remember when you used to work for the Queen, Dad." And we used to come see him when he used to work for the Queen, because they have the flags outside with a crown on the flags. You know what I mean? That's what Chelsea, because he was only like 2, that's what Chelsea used to say to him. Oh yeah, Daddy works for the
Great
Queen.
save, that.
So yeah.
Well, okay, so 23, leave prison. Are you still together, or are you not together?
Yeah, we stayed together while I was in prison. Like I say, she was good in the sense of she never let Finn forget who I was.
Yeah.
She always, do you know what I mean? Your dad's your dad. I always remember, I call him son, do you know what I mean? I'm one of those. I'll always call him son. I remember when I got out saying, "Come on, son." And he went, "Why do you call me son?" I said, "You call me dad and I call you son. That's what you are, do you know what I mean? You're my son." Yeah. All right, yeah. He's like, so, because no one had ever called him it before, do you know what I mean? Everyone's always Finn.
Well, I sort of know that feeling, because so my dad wasn't around growing up. He's in and out of prison, and we reconnected about 3 years ago.
Oh yeah.
So I hadn't seen him at all. So my mum wouldn't let him go and see him in prison until I was 18.
Yeah.
And then she said, "Look, you're old enough, big enough, stupid enough to make your own decision. If you want to see him, go and see him." So I went to see him. Probably saw him 2 or 3 times. Spoke on the phone every now and again, and then lost touch completely until 3 or 4 years ago, when he's out. He's been out of prison. He tried to connect with me over Facebook, and I thought, you know what? let's give it a go. What can you lose, right? So I'm in a fortunate position now where in my life I don't need him. I don't need a dad. And if he comes into my life and adds something great, if he comes in and he disappears, great. Like, whatever. No, exactly. But so when I started like going around his house and we went for something to eat and stuff, he'd be like, all right, son, and he'd ring me and call me son. I was a bit like, it's so weird. Like somebody calling me son. Yeah. He'd be like, I love you, son. I'd be like, cheers, mate. I don't know what to say. Yeah. But I think he didn't like that. So we don't speak again now. So it lasted 6 or 7 months.
Oh, really?
But I think he just didn't allow for me to adjust to the fact that I've now got somebody. I'm 35 now, so I'm 32, 31, and now I've got a dad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it just takes some adjustment. And I think he was sort of expecting me to come in my life and be like, "Oh, Dad, I love you. Where have you been?" And it's just never going to be like that, unfortunately. But it is what it is, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you come out of prison. You're still together.
Yeah. Well, for a while, yeah. We went back to live with each other.
Yeah, in Grantham or in Lincoln?
In Grantham, yeah.
Yeah.
She moved to Grantham while I was in jail. Okay. So I went to live with them when I got, like I say, I was coming home at weekends and stuff when I was in there to the address, and it was good, to be fair. When I first came out, got a job, got everything sorted, started feeling good about myself, started looking after Finn a lot. Like you say, I couldn't wait to get out and have that relationship, that father-son, me and him. And I think he was the same, to be fair. Like when I came out, I remember we used to sit and play Mario Kart on the Wii. Do you know what I mean? He just used to love it. Or we'd sit and play on the DS. He'd be like, "Rescue the princess, Dad, rescue the princess." And I'd be like, "Yes, son." Do you know what I mean? Like, still now, he's just like my little buddy. Do you know what I mean? Like I said to you in that message, the first message, I always say, like, people, when we speak to people, I always say, "We've grown up together, haven't we, son, me and you?" And he's like, "Yeah." He remembers when he started school as well. I remember he used to say in the playground, "Daddy, how come you're small and everyone else is big?" But what he meant was young. How come you're young and everyone else is older? You know what I mean? But yeah, it's just, he did click on. He noticed. Yeah.
So when does that break down then? That relationship? What happens there?
Maybe after about not even a year or so, maybe a year, yeah, just under a year. So we've split up for numerous reasons, really. Like, I'll never say she shouldn't have stood by me when I was in jail, because she helped me through it, to be honest with you. Yeah. But at the same time, she probably didn't help herself. Do you know what I mean? Because she didn't love me, man. And I'd been horrible to her. You know what I mean? I was young. I cheated on her no end of times before. Like, I was pretty rude, to be fair. I cheated on her before I'd gone to jail and all that sort of stuff. And then I've gone to prison and said, "Oh, wait for me, please." Do you know what I mean? So it was all just stupid, to be honest. And then after a few months, it's sort of broken down.
And at that point, are you a hands-on dad, or you're not a hands-on dad?
Yeah, I was very hands-on. Yeah, I always remember the woman who used to live next door to us. She used to say, "Oh, you're amazing, Dean." I used to bike to work. This was before I learned to drive, so I used to bike to work, do like 9, 12-hour shifts sometimes, bike home, and then I always remember, like, I didn't know I was doing anything, but I used to come in the garden, put my bike down. I wouldn't even go in the house. I'd just like jump straight on the trampoline with Finn, start running around the garden. Do you know what I mean? Playing. And the woman next door would be like, "I don't know how you do it." Do you know what I mean? Now you get your energy from that. I'm like, "Well, I'm still young." Do you know what I mean? That's why I want to jump on the trampoline just as much as he does. Yeah. So yeah, I was pretty dead hands on. Yeah. And when we split up, it was rough, man.
So talk about that. Whose decision is that?
I think it was mine, to be honest. I left. It was my final, like, "I'm going to go now." It was a bit back and forth for a bit. Like, she was saying, "Shall we fight for it, make it work?" Both of us trying to fight, and then it just gets too much. So I think it was me in the end that well, to be fair, I went and lived with my mates, stayed on my mate's sofa for a couple of weeks, and then I got a house living with one of my friends. So yeah, but I always remember, like, it wasn't like a vicious breakup, because I can remember her dropping me off at my new house. So it couldn't have been that horrible a breakup, you know what I mean? It was sort of a mutual, we've got to do this. You'll still see Finn, go and sort yourself, go and set up separate ways, you know what I mean?
How do you think having a child at such a young age shapes you as you're growing up? Do you think you'd have been any different if you didn't have him?
Definitely, mate. 1,000,000%. I'd have been up to all sorts. Like, say that if that 2 years in prison away from Finn.
Is that the last 2 years?
That
you've been in, is that the last 2 years you've been in prison?
I've not been. I've not been back since. Yeah, so I did that. Like, being away from him for them 2 years, it's like that thing, like you say. Like, I've grown up without my dad, and I've always promised myself that I'll be there for my son, and now I'm in jail and I'm not there for my son. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I was really quite hard on myself,
and how does being a young single dad affect future relationships? Because obviously you're going into it with women of the similar age, right? I'd imagine. And girls at mid-20s don't really want to have to deal with kids that aren't theirs.
Ex-baby mum and all that on the phone all the time, ringing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, to be fair, though. The girl I did get with in the end had kids herself, so it was more of a, you know what I mean, you've got kids, I've got kids, everything's all good.
Yeah.
But I was going to say something just before about how he shaped me. Yeah, there's been times, like you say, when I first split up with her, and there's been times where, you know what I mean, depression and all that kicks in, you don't want to do anything, you haven't done anything for a few days, you know what I mean? Yeah. All of a sudden she rings you, like, you got to come pick your kid up, do you know what I mean? So it's like, right, you've got no choice now, do you know what I mean? Like, you better get up, you better get things sorted. Like, I always remember when I was young, I never thought about getting a driving license. I was a bit of a tearaway, do you know what I mean? But as I got older, I've got myself a driving license, and I've always wanted to just do my best for him, really. Do you know what I mean?
Did she go back to Lincoln at that point then?
No,
she stay in Grantham?
Yeah, she still lives in Grantham now. Yeah.
Okay, because that could have been a challenge in itself, right? You break up. She's not from town, so she's not from town, so she goes back home. You've now got your kid living 26, 27 miles away. You don't drive, so that could have been a nightmare in its own right.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And I think that was one of the things, to be fair. I remember when we first split up, we always say, like, my niece, my sister's daughter, she'll walk anywhere, run anywhere, bike anywhere with her dad, because she's always done that. My sister don't drive, do you know what I mean? So she's always done it. It's just the norm. My son, his mum drove from when he was born. She's always had a driving license, so he's always been in the car. He's always drove everywhere. So when we split up, and he used to come to my house, he'd be like, "Oh, can't get a taxi, Dad. Oh, we've got to walk again, Dad. We've got to walk again." And I'd be like, "Oh, I need to get a driving license." You know what I mean? Because he was so lazy. Do you know what I mean?
So you settled on the name Finn, right? But was there arguments for the name, or was it pretty straightforward?
It's quite interesting, really. So Chelsea picked his name, Finley, but one of my best friends growing up was called Perry John. My dad was called John. It wasn't his middle name for that reason, but that was his name. And when we were growing up as kids, I always used to say, when I have a kid, I'm going to call him Perry John. Perry, and then John for my dad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Chelsea gets pregnant, and I'm like, right, Perry John, what are you saying? She's like, not a chance. She's like, said, I tell you what, I'll pick Finley, do you know what I mean? I like the name Finley, so we'll have that. And his name's Finley John, that's my dad, and his middle name's Perry as well. That's my best mate who we grew up with. Got christened together when we were babies. Wow. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, so we argued a while. Yeah, because she was adamant she wanted Joshua, and I was like, nah. And then we settled on Luca, and he was Luca for ages. And then, do you watch Peaky Blinders?
Yeah.
You know, the last season they had, or it might have been the season before the last one, where they were dealing with the Americans, and he was called Lucas something.
Yeah.
So every week we were watching the Peaky Blinders, and they were like Luca, and I was like, I don't actually like that name anymore. Yeah. So, but I like it was similar. So yeah, we went. He's called Leonardo. Is the full name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is that like? Obviously, your name's obviously it's
Carlucci.
Carlucci. Yeah. Is that?
Yeah. So Italian. It's Italian.
Italian. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
see,
So,
my last name's Polish.
I was going to ask you where that's from.
Yeah, my granddad's Polish, so I get it. Or you must get it the same as me, where you go up to like the counter somewhere, they say, "What's your name?" You say Dean Michniew, and then you have to spell it for them straight away.
Yeah. Well, for me, everyone calls me Marco Carlucci, but it's Carlucci. And for a very long time, I was like, no, it's Carlucci, it's Carlucci. And then you just get so fed up of.
You just let them crack on.
Yeah. So I even call myself it now, like, yeah, Carlucci, yeah, Carlucci.
I had the spelling. So I used to play football when I was a kid, and used to score some goals and that, get my name in the paper, and every week it'd be spelled different. Every week it'd have O's in it and all sorts. Crazy. And I remember we went to the doctors when Finn was born as well. And obviously I was in habit, like, yeah, we've gone to one of them computers and you had to type in Mr., Master, Miss or Mrs. And I've gone Master. And she went, how did you know that? I was like, because I used to be a little boy. So, oh yeah. So is that what they call you when you're little? I'm like, yeah, you're Master.
Yeah, Master. When you had the baby, or when you first found out, what did your mum say?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Like, I don't think she was ever like against it or anything like that. My mum's quite. I'm a bit of a mummy's boy, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? She's always like been soft on me because I've not had my dad. Yeah. She's always, I don't know, like looked at me like, I'd love to be able to help you, but I don't know how to teach you to be a man. Do you know what I mean? So she's always there for me. Do you know what I mean? She's never. I think she was happy when I come back and said I was having a baby.
Brothers and sisters, are you the oldest?
No, I'm the youngest. I'm literally the baby of the family. Yeah.
Okay. Was she a grandmother before she had you? Or
my sister already had Ronnie May. Yeah, so she was already a nanny. Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't a complete shock. I'm a nanny. Okay.
But yeah, so I was listening to that podcast yesterday when you were saying about the difference when you get with a girlfriend. They got different views on stuff.
Yeah.
So my mum was one of these like tough love kind of ladies. You know what I mean? I remember when my niece got chicken pox. My mum's ringing me like, "Bring Finn up." Do you know what I mean? Let's get it out of the way. And my girlfriend's like, "No, we can't." Do you know what I mean? It's cruel. We can't. My mum's like, "It's better to get it done." Do you know what I mean? Bring him up. So I went through all that, the same as what you're on about before, like what's right and what's wrong and what you should do, and it's.
But it is so true. But everybody comes from completely different angles, and it's if you can clash over that, and it's not you're not wrong and she's not wrong. It's just that you've been brought up completely differently. Yeah. So what you find normal, I find weird.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's just the way you grow up, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay, so you've split up. You meet your next partner, who you have your next child with.
Yeah, to be honest, I was one of them guys, you know what I mean? I didn't want to be on my own for too long. Met a girl, fell in love, do you know what I mean? Jumped in straight in 2 feet, man.
And you said that she had kids as well?
Yeah, she had kids. So that was another thing, like going in stepdad role.
Okay.
Doing that sort of.
And how is that different? So you've had your own, you've lived with your own, you're now not with your child, and then straight away you're into a family that.
To be honest, at first I've really struggled with the fact that I was seeing more of somebody else's kids than I saw of my own son.
Yeah,
I did struggle to begin with a lot, and I remember it being like quite an issue. Do you know what I mean? Like you need to, like Finn used to come at weekends, and I was a bit like favoritism. Do you know what I mean? I would always make sure he's all right. Do you know what I mean? Make sure Finn's all right.
Yeah.
Wrap him up in cotton wool. Do you know what I mean? Or like if they start, oh, we did this in the week, you know what I mean? And they're all having fun, and I can see on his face, he's a bit like, oh, I wish I was it. I would hate it. It would get me down, you know what I mean? But you can't be like that, really. If you're going to go in and look after somebody else's kids, you got to go in and be fair, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And how long into this relationship are you finding out you're pregnant with your second?
Oh, it was quite a while, to be fair. Yeah, it was a couple of years in to before she got pregnant. It was interesting though because so the girl I got with had 2 kids with 2 dads, and the oldest daughter, she was very like, we got on fine, you know what I mean? We used to have a laugh and play and all that, but I remember she went on holiday once with her dad to Cornwall for like 2 weeks. She's come home and she's all like, Mum, I missed you. And then she's come in the front room. I was like, do you miss me, Leigh? She like looked at me, gone out like, no, was I supposed to? Do you know what I mean? It literally made me laugh, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I got little kids, man. You know what I mean? I like that. It made me confident in that's how Finn is. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No one's going to replace you.
Yeah. As long I always say that. Well, I always think because I was a young dad and I had kids first, and then all my mates started having kids, and like you say, you talk to each other and try and give each other advice. People sometimes look at me like, well, you're a bit young to be giving out advice. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, I did go through it, man. I went, saw it with my own eyes and learnt from it all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was nice.
Yeah, no, nothing beats experience. I mean, you can read as much as you want, but
yeah,
somebody who's been through it and been through all the tribulations that you have been through with going to prison, breaking up, and being, you know, and your father dying when you're fairly young.
And I always say as well, like with that guy you talked to yesterday, when you've split with your missus and they get a new boyfriend and that, and it is, man, it hits you hard, man. Like then having another guy around your kid, and you think, oh, is he going to take my place? Is my kid going to? I remember I got out of the bath once. I used to have the perm, do you know, in the top of my hair. So I used to have the like thingy, all the curly hair. I've got out of the bath, and my hair's all curly. And my son burst out laughing. He said, "Hey, you got a pot noodle head, Dad. You got a pot noodle head." I said, "Where you got that from?" And he'd got it from his mum's boyfriend. You know what I mean? And I had to laugh it off, like at the same time. I thought, sort of niggles at you a little bit, but then. And I always say, like that's what I was going to say before. I think as long it don't matter if you split with your missus and she gets with another guy, as long as you carry on doing your bit, you will not lose that bond with your kid. No, like it's just up to you, man. As long as you carry on doing your bit, nothing will break that bond, man.
No.
Like you say, man, how long did you not see Dad, and you still rang him after all them years and gave him another chance? You know what I mean? To do anything. I think all people have that sort of.
Well, it's family, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's like no matter what they do wrong, or no matter how they are, or how not even involved in your life, it's just like, yeah, but it's your dad, or it's your brother, or it's your sister. It's family.
Blood,
blood's thicker than water, right?
You see the Chopper film where it's like if your mum stabs you, you don't get enough about it. You just go hospital. You know what I mean? That's how it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Families are a funny thing.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah, I think if you are as involved as you can be, then there's absolutely no reason as to why your kids don't remember you or treat you any differently.
I think.
But you said to me previously that you've struggled with mental health.
Yeah, I've struggled with mental health quite a lot in the past year. All sorts.
Over what though? What's caused that?
Through my 20s, because my dad was a big drinker, I've never been a big drinker. So I was sort of the other way. I used to smoke a bit of weed and that, you know. Well, not a bit of weed. I used to smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help with mental health. That old thing, like what you were saying, like what I was saying before, people telling me, oh yeah, like I always have that niggling in the back of my head, like I am like my dad. Do you know what I mean? I'm just gonna hook this up. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna mess it all up. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna end up dying young. You know what I mean? And I sort of dig myself into a hole, talk myself into a hole sometimes where I can't get. But then that's what I was saying before. Like my kids have sort of got me out of it more than once. Whereas, like say, like I'm in a hole at home, depressed, thinking I'm a failure. Do you know what I mean? I'm at my mum's house and I'm thinking I should have an house where my kids can come and see me. Do you know what I mean? Stay at my house. Don't get me wrong, my mum lives on her own because my stepdad's died. When I moved out, like this, when I moved out, I've done my son a bedroom. Do you know what I mean? At here, my daughter's got a bedroom, so they have got places to stay. But I just still just sort of beat myself up sometimes. And don't get me wrong, like I've even had, do you know what I mean? You get exes on the phone, like you get his mum on the phone texting you, giving you all that. Oh, you're useless. You're this. You're that. You should do more.
Just what you want.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes you believe. You know what I mean? They say it to you enough, you start to believe it. Do you know what I mean? And it gets you down. But then a couple of days later, she'll ring. Oh, we go pick Finn up from school. We go pick him up. And the thing is, with like the kids, they're so oblivious. You know what I mean? You just get in the car. All right, Dad, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
got to be, I suppose. So
Game face, right? Put the game face on.
Yeah, he just talks to you like normal. Do you know what I mean? Like what you've been up to and that. So all of a sudden, you just snapped out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But do you snap out of it, or is that just bottling it up? Because that's the problem, right? So
yeah.
a lot, and maybe you can just snap out of it, but there's a lot of people that will bottle it up, and when like you say, the kid comes around, they put on that game face,
Yeah,
and then when the kid's gone, it's like, oh, back to.
Yeah, I do think we all get that, like what you're saying before. We all get that sort of deflated feeling with single dads when you have your kids for the weekend and you drop them off, you go home, you sit down, it's like all the noise is silent. You know what I mean? You just think all weekend you've been telling them to be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, and now all you want to do is hear them screaming and running around your house. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes it is just like a little deflated feeling. Next morning you're all right, but sometimes, like you say, when they're telling you you're useless and all that, and I taught myself right down into a yeah.
And are you the kind of person that will speak to somebody about how you're feeling, or is it?
Recently, in the past couple of years, I've opened up more to people. I've actually been to see a therapist, you know what I mean, like privately, not through the NHS. Just went to see a woman, spoke to her. Like, I remember saying to her, like, I'd love to know what's wrong with my head, do you know what I mean? Like, but she said to me, there's nothing wrong with you, do you know what I mean? I don't need to diagnose you with anything, do you know what I mean? Like, you're all right. It's sitting here talking to you, I can tell you're all right, do you know what I mean? You just, yeah, it's just that, what I was going to say earlier, like, when you're being a young dad, you never know if you're doing it right, do you know what I mean? You always think people are judging you. You always think people are watching what you do. I think even dads, as you're older, you probably get it. You know, when you're out in public and you're doing stuff for your kid, you always think people are watching you and what's he doing? Is he doing it right? Why is he doing it like that? And you're always sort of like conscious of it. And with me, I always think I'm just doing it wrong. Do you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. I shouldn't have done
that. You think that comes from being a young dad?
Yeah, and not having my own. Do you know what I mean? Not having someone there to say, "No, you're all right. You can do that." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I suppose you like me, you haven't grown up with your dad, so you know, growing through life, you go through your life and you recreate experiences that happen to you, right?
Yeah.
So my friends will, if as they're a dad, they'll like Tilly on the last podcast, he talked about where he became a stepdad. And he spoke to his dad, and he remembered what his dad was like. His stepdad was like when he came into the family. So he relived that experience to take into be him coming a dad. But for us, we're learning all about being a dad on the fly.
Yeah, no teacher. You had no teacher. Yeah.
No. And just do you think that affects how you parent?
Yeah, definitely. I've always said I've sort of wrapped my son up in cotton wool a little bit. I've always, like I say, my mum's one of them tough love kind of women. She you've got to have these life experiences to grow up. Otherwise, you're going to grow up wrapped in cotton wool, and everything's going to be horrible for you. So, but yeah, I was a bit in his younger days. I was wrapped up in cotton wool quite. As he got older, I'm a bit more lenient with him. But
yeah,
I was definitely. I never wanted no harm. I can't do that. I don't want no harm to come to him. Do you know what I mean?
So, second child, find out you're having a baby. What's that feeling like? Because I suppose effectively that's your fourth at this point. Because you've got two step kids.
Yeah.
Plus your own, and now.
And that was the thing. Like we were together. Do you know what I mean? She had kids. I had kids. It was like if we're going to be a family, we might as well complete the family.
Okay, but we're planned. So it's planned.
Not as such, but we had spoke about it.
Okay.
And then when she did first fall pregnant, I was scared to death, to be honest. I was scared to tell Finn, for one thing. I didn't know how he'd react. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to have another baby. I didn't know if he was going to feel pushed, but he wasn't bothered at all. He was loving it. Like, yeah, can't wait. So that was like a big relief. I was happy about that.
Yeah. What about the first mum? Well, how does she take that?
She was in a relationship with a guy and all that, so I don't think she was too bothered, to be honest. She didn't say nothing. I think she might have even texted and said congratulations. You know what I mean? Like, I hope everything goes well in that. Yeah.
So at this point, dynamic with I think you said her name was Chelsea.
Yeah, that's my son's name.
How is that relationship?
Now, after obviously Finn's 11, Finn was like 4 when we split up. So we've been split up 6-7 years now.
Yeah.
Got to the point where I barely speak to her, to be honest. Finn's got a mobile phone now, so he'll ring me. Dad, can you pick me up? Yeah, I'm coming. She's very good in the sense of I can ring her at like 2 o'clock on a Wednesday and say, I'll pick Finn up from school today and I'll give him some dinner and that. Yeah, Sam, thank you. Drop him off later. She's very like she's all right like that. You know what I mean? Very laid back. Lets me see him as much as I like.
Yeah.
Like, been times in the past where I've swapped over jobs. You know what I mean? I've gone from job to job and I'm struggling financially, and she's gone, yeah. She's not like said, oh, you're not having him this week because you haven't paid me no money. Do you know what I mean? She just said, yeah. When you got it. Do you know what I mean? Just crack on.
Because that was one of the things I was going to ask about actually. Is that how does being a young father that's separated from the mum, how does the financial pressure of then having to provide for somebody who you're not living with, and I suppose you're not. I suppose you're not earning great money as a young boy. So does that add another level of pressure?
Yeah, I went for it. It did me well, to be fair. I went from wearing like Nike Air Max trainers and tracksuits and all that to just going to Primark, man, and just, do you know what I mean? Finn, if it was up to me, I'd go TK Maxx and get him some clothes, man. And he'd look smart enough, do you know what I mean? Kids are all right, but his mum is dead. Like, she gets him stone on in tracksuits. Comes to my house in like a North Face tracksuit. Like, mum says I'm not allowed to get it dirty. I'm like, all right. £100 tracksuit, but yeah, like, I've always paid maintenance. Well, look, I've always done my best to pay maintenance. I do pay as much as I can. I always paid, but it is a big pressure, and it is one of them, like you say, all your mates, they ain't got no responsibility, so they're out here splashing money left, right, and centre, and you just can't do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got obviously your kids to pay for, and it's not just the maintenance side of things. Obviously, you pay maintenance to the mum, and then I have him at the weekend, and it's like, I've got to do something. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to sit in the house all weekend, so I'm going to go somewhere, and I'm going to spend more money doing all that. So it is a big. And that's the thing before what I was saying with the job. Like, I've got a job. I used to work in the kitchen, and I used to smash the hours just for the money. Do you know what I mean? Like, get the money. But then it got to the point where I'm working too much, and I'm not seeing him. Do you know what I mean? I'm getting the money, I'm paying his mum the money, and when he comes to my house, we're going out nice places, stuff like that. But I'm barely seeing him, so it's hard to find that
fine balance, isn't it?
Oh, really hard, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you have the second. It's a girl. Argue on the name of that one, or how was that pretty straightforward?
I picked a name, Lana.
Okay.
I've seen a few things on Facebook recently that made me think I should have thought about it, with the old football shirts in the mirror. You seen them?
No.
So Lana, Lana is a name. So if you take a football shirt in the mirror backwards, it's not a good look, man. So yeah, but I picked a name. Both my kids got my surname as well, which I'm quite proud of.
Yeah.
I'm actually the only grandson from dad's side with the family name that will pass the name on. So it was quite proud for me that both kids have got my name, and both girlfriends were okay with it as well. They never said I couldn't be on birth certificate or couldn't have my name. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Well, I suppose you weren't married for any of them either.
No, I've not been married. No.
No. Okay. So So are you still with the mother of the second?
No, we're not together anymore. I'm single dad now.
Okay. So when did that break up?
So, a good few years ago now. We broke up, and for a while we went back and forth. It got a bit messy, to be fair, but we're all right now. She has her moments, but this is what I was going to say. I wrote a couple of things down at the beginning. What I was going to say, like, obviously I've had some issues with my kids' mums over the years, like anyone who's a single dad will have, but it's only because both of you want the best for the kid, you know what I mean? They want what's best, you want what's best, and you end up clashing with each other. But I've literally got a lot of respect for both my kids' mums. As much as I have arguments with them and I do say some stuff sometimes, you've got to respect that they look after them 5 days a week, every week, take them to school, feed them, all that. So you can't take that away from them, do you know what I mean?
No, and that's, you could be in I mean, I know loads of people in situations that they do not stand their baby mums, and sometimes that can affect them actually seeing the children, not because they don't want to, but because they think they have to get one up on over the parent. So and that's the worst thing, right? Forget what's happening with you two. It needs to be what's right for the children, and if seeing them and you not liking or not getting on with the mum, that shouldn't matter.
No. And they've always done well, to be fair. Like, yeah, my daughter's mum's had has moments over the years since we've been split up. But yeah, it's always for like a day, do you know what I mean? It'll be like, are you not having her? Next day rings me, right, you're having her. Do you know what I mean? It's all just like in the moment. She says things that she don't really mean, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're 31 now?
I'm 31 now, yeah. My daughter, so when my daughter was born, I was 25, yeah. So like I say, I always remember when I was at work once, some guy asked me, are you rich, Dean? I said, listen, mate, I've got a son and a daughter. I've got a good job that I like, man. I would class myself as pretty rich, mate, to be honest. What do you think? And he's like, oh, I didn't mean that. But yeah, I'm pretty blessed, man, to have one of each, boy and a girl.
Yeah. So, and that you're both you're involved with both of them still.
Yeah, it's nice, yeah.
Do you think you'd have any more?
Maybe I would never, not in the same position that I'm in now. I would have to like get this lockdown out of the way, get back to work. Do you know what I mean? Be in good stead and ready for it, 100%. Like planned. If I had another one, it would be planned to a T. Do you know what I mean? Like, right now we're ready. Let's have a baby. Because I've been through it before, where you're not really ready as a couple. Do you know what I mean? Like
at 19, who is?
Yeah, well, I'm looking like that as well.
Remember myself at 19. I mean, I could barely change my underpants. Let alone raise a kid. I didn't, at 32, I didn't feel ready.
No.
And
that was the thing with me at 19. I was just like a cocky little kid, like, yeah, man, I can do this. I remember Chelsea used to say I used to treat him like a trophy. I used to walk around and like show my mates, like, look at my son, look at him, like showing him off to everyone. Do you know what I mean? He's like, not a trophy, Dean. He's a baby.
Do you have any advice then for any young dads or someone who's going to be a dad who's fairly young? What advice would you give to somebody that's?
I'd say I spent a lot of my 20s worrying about a lot of stuff that you don't need to worry about, man. Do you know what I mean? As long as you're doing your best.
Like what? What would you worry about? I would worry, like now, for instance, I'm single dad with the coronavirus and all that. I don't like to say, oh, I still live at my mum's, and I still live at mum, because I don't still live at my mum's. I moved out when I was a kid for years and years and years. My stepdad died a few years ago, so my mum's on her own. I'm on my own. I've got 2 kids. It just makes sense to stay at my mum. Mum can help me out. I drive. I can help mum out. It makes sense. You know what I mean? And sometimes I like
like I say, I'll get myself down. Like I should have my own house where my kid, and it will come in time. I will have my own house where I can have my kids, and do you know what I mean? I might meet another girl and be together for a while, and maybe have our own baby together again. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, like I'll sit and worry, like, oh, I'm at my mum's. Do you know what I mean? Kids are going to grow up knowing that I lived at my mum's, and just put myself down really when you shouldn't really have. You don't need to.
Yeah. Are you? Is that because you're comparing yourself against other people?
Yes, 1,000,000%. Yeah. And sometimes like it's just that like saying like you say to someone, "Oh, I live with my mum," and they sort of get that, and they look at you. You know what I mean? Still lives at home. You know what I mean? But like I say, you can see I've been through it all in my 20s. So living at my mum's, it just makes sense.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean,
it's not, and that's what I mean. Like I sometimes beat myself up, sit there worrying, put myself down, and I think, like you say, to other like young dads, as long as you're doing your best, man, get to work, paying for your kids, making memories with your kids. You know what I mean? Like when you have your kids at the weekend, don't just like, oh yeah, you come to my house, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like make an effort, man. We've been all over, man. Me and Finn. We went to watch United at Old Trafford. And that's what it's all about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I suppose that's my question. How do you make sure your child supports the team that you support? Because that's
pretty good, to be fair. It was, well, with his mum being called Chelsea, it was one of them when he was younger. Do you know what I mean? She's like Chelsea, and it was like it was never. He's always been a Man U fan, Finn. He used to make jokes about Chelsea when he was younger because his mum was called Chelsea, or he'd like ask what the Chelsea score is. But yeah, he's the thing is, my dad was United.
Yeah.
And like I say, I didn't even see him that much. And he died when I was 11. And I still grew up like diehard United.
But the difference with you is that you grew up in an era where United were the best.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Now,
like, we used to be good.
Yeah, now it's like, I mean, this season permitting, because this season we're actually doing quite well. Yeah. But, you know, for a long time, I mean, I've never seen so many City fans in my life than there's been over the last, what, 6, 7.
My sister's boyfriend's like big United fan. Like, he's one of them guys who sits screaming at the TV, do you know what I mean? And we go around, like, I'll go around my sister's where we stood in the kitchen having a cup of tea, and he'll be in the front room watching the football. And then all of a sudden you're there, and my son would just burst out laughing. You know what I mean? He loves it, he laughs his head off, and I think that's got him more into United. The fact that we're a United family. Do you know what I mean? I support United, my cousins support United, his uncles, and we're all just United. So if he was to come home and say anyone else, yeah, he wouldn't.
My wife's, my father-in-law, he's a Liverpool fan, diehard Liverpool.
Yeah, Bob's Liverpool, isn't he?
Bob is Liverpool. So it was weird. My wedding was literally split 50-50. It was United and Liverpool.
That's what Grantham's like, though.
Yeah.
Everyone's either United or Liverpool.
Yeah. Well, Carly's, my wife's granddad, actually, he played for United. So, yeah, he was in the 68 Champions League winning team. Played for years and years and years. So I was like, you have to support United. There's no option.
Yeah. So my daughter, so my daughter's granddad, so her mum's dad, he's like a Geordie, he's a Newcastle fan. He goes up there to watch them. They're like a proper Newcastle family. His dad's Newcastle, all their uncles are Newcastle. So there is a bit of a thing there. She's only 4. She comes to my house and like jokes about it. Like, Dad, if you buy me a Man U shirt, I'll support Man United. But I'm going to support Newcastle like Granddad. I'm like, you better not.
Let's hope they don't start winning anything. Otherwise, that battle might be a little harder to win.
Yeah.
Would you do anything differently through both experiences? Is there anything that you would have done? Looking back now, you think, do you know what? I probably could have done this differently.
Like I said before, it probably shouldn't have took going to jail to kick myself up the arse and sort my life out. Because I missed 2 years of my son's life, basically. Do you know what I mean? 2 years that I'll never get back. And
it's so good that you did though, because the reoffending rate for prison is so high.
Yeah,
So the
yeah,
fact that you went to prison and went, no, I need to get straight, sort myself out, not go back there.
yeah.
That is great. That is good in itself.
Yeah, that's one thing I do. Do you know what I mean? When I get in my down moods, that's one thing I do. Sort of pat myself on the back. I sort of say to myself, like, you don't need anyone to tell you you're doing all right. Do you know what I mean? You've been to prison, you've come out, and you've sorted your life out. Like, you've done well. Do you know what I mean? That's what I sort of drill into my head when I'm getting down. So, yeah, just the fact that I missed the 2 years, and I realised what I missed when I had my daughter.
Yeah,
because obviously I had it, I saw it, and I think, oh, I missed all this with my son. Do you know what I mean?
because I was going to ask you that. Was it what was different the second time round? But I suppose being there, is a major difference.
Even having a daughter, I think with having a girl, sort of blows your mind.
What is the difference?
Like I say, being a lad, when you have your son, it's yes, got my boy. Do you know what I mean? My little mini me to grow up just like me. Do you know what I mean? Correct all my mistakes. You know what I mean? I'll get him to grow up, good lad. And then he sort of, and then when I had the Lana, it sort of makes you think, like all the bad decisions you've made, all the girls you've done wrong. Do you know what I mean? It sort of hits you like, wow, man.
Because
that's people's daughters.
Yeah, for me, that's my biggest concern about ever having a daughter, was that I've been a young guy.
Yeah.
Not a nice
man. Yeah. And that's what I mean. That's what I was like. I want a nice teenage boy. Do you know what I mean? Early 20s.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just sort of hits you like a steam train. Like, wow.
I've got one friend who's got 3 daughters, and he's, when I had Leo, he'd always message me and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm so jealous. Like, I wish I had a boy." And I'd say to him, just give it another go, see how you get on. He's like, "I can't risk it. I can't risk a 4th girl." But he has. He risked it, and he's got his boy.
Oh, decent.
So he's lucky. You can imagine 4 girls.
Yeah, well, that's what I used to have when I used to live with my daughter's mum. So she had 2 girls, and then so she's got 3 girls. Right. So I used to live in a house with like 4 women. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it used to drive me insane. So you get like get like the oldest daughter and the mum. They're like the same age, going at each other like they're the same age. I'm like, what is going on
here? So, Dean, what does the future hold? What does the future hold for you, mate?
Obviously, with the world the way it is, I don't know whether I'm going to get back cutting hair. I don't know what the situation is with barbershops, because that was the main thing. Like, I've come out of kitchens because I was doing all these hours, and I thought to myself, I want to get self-employed. Do you know what I mean? So if I'm self-employed, I choose when I work. I can pick my kids up, and this is another thing. Like, I chose barbering. I don't know if you saw on my Instagram, I've got like a little quote that says barbershops used to be for like men, where men could go talk about the sport, you know what I mean? I want to sort of create a place where men can bring their kids, have an haircut, chill out, watch some TV, play some computer, spend some time together, bond. I remember like when my son was young, when I first got out of prison, he had hair down to here because he wouldn't go and get his haircut. He'd sit in the chair and scream, and his mum couldn't take him.
Yeah.
So when I got out, that was like one of my things. We used to go for a haircut together. He'd sit there and I'd sit there together, and it was like a cool little thing. You know what I mean? So that's what I tried. When I first went self-employed as a barber, even in the shop I work in now, I do like a little 20% off. If you come father and son together, you get 20% off, a little bit of discount, a little bit of bonding, come together.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my aim for now, and it still is for the future, to be honest. Like, I would like to set somewhere up where we can all get together, man, and talk, advise each other and all that. If I meet the right girl and everything's going well, then, like I said before with my other girlfriend, I think because I've got kids, it's unfair to say, look after my kids, but I'm not going to give you one. Do you know what I mean? So you sort of, if everything's right and the time's right and everything's going well, then I would sort of, like to complete the family and maybe have another one.
Get married?
Oh, definitely. I've always, in my early 20s, I was one of them guys. I'm never getting married. But in my older days, now, I do want to get married. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great day. What a waste of money, though. Like,
Yeah.
honestly,
So you obviously married, yeah.
yeah.
Did you do the big, went all out? Yeah.
It wasn't huge, but it was 80 people. It's
Yes.
not
It's
massive,
big.
but
Yeah, big enough still.
it's just it's the little things like £600 on wedding invites. And I'm like, I was like, can we just not set up a group on Facebook and then and invite everybody? It's the same thing, right? Can you make it? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, so all those little things that they just have you over a barrel that you have to get. Wedding cake, hundreds and hundreds of pounds for a wedding cake. You've never eaten cake so expensive.
I know,
It's
yeah. No, don't touch
but,
it.
but yeah, the day was great. Like I'd recommend anybody doing it because
Yeah.
the day is just phenomenal.
The thing is, I'm a lover, not a fighter. Do you know what I mean? I'm quite an emotional guy, quite a loving guy. Do you know what I mean? So marriage is something that I would like to stand. Like if I met the right girl and I loved it, I would stand up in front of everyone and do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I'm older and a bit more mature. And
one of the things I did notice about your Instagram is you are in phenomenal shape. How the hell do you manage to stay in shape having 4 kids? Like, that's one thing I really struggle with.
Yeah, see, that's a mental health thing. With like, you see, like all these Tyson Fury and that on the news and all that. Like, it is something that if I slack off, I like to, like I say, I'm not a big drinker. I'll have a drink. I know everyone says they drink now and again, but I do drink literally now, maybe once or twice a year. I'll have a drink.
Okay.
Other than that, I'll drink water. I drink a lot of tea and coffee, to be honest, but water. I'm not a fizzy pop guy. Do you know what I mean? I don't eat meat. Meat used to give me but like I've noticed since I've stopped eating meat gave me a bad stomach, and I think that's to do with teenage years and being a little rebel, taking all sorts of stuff that gets to your stomach a little bit. So that used to give me a bad stomach. I've not ate meat for quite a while, and yeah, I always, whenever I'm feeling bad,
any meat, so like chicken, fish.
I eat fish. I'll have fish, tuna, and chip shop. That's about it. Okay. Other than that, yeah, I'm not really. But yeah.
And how long have you been a pescatarian then? Say.
About 2.5 years now. Yeah, not touched meat for about 2.5 years.
I did it for a year.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought I'm going to give it a go. I tried it for a year, and it's hard.
Yeah, that's the thing with me. Like people say, you know, when I was a kid, I would eat sausages and I would eat burgers, but you know, if it looked like meat, like a chicken or like a slice of meat where you can see all the. Mum would make me like a Sunday dinner with a beef on it, and I'd eat all round the plate, and I'd leave the meat. And Mum would be like, "Oh, you're just lazy. You don't like chewing the meat." And I'd be like, "I don't. I just don't like meat." And then, as I've grown up, yeah, I sort of said, right, when I was a kid, I didn't like it, so I sort of knock it on the head. Some of the veggie burgers you can get nowadays as well. Honestly, people think you're lying, but some of the veggie burgers you can get are bang on, like perfect. You get some Lincolnshire sausages as well. It's the same herbs and spices that are in the meat Lincolnshire sausages. So they're literally bang on. They're all right. Do you know what I mean?
It's getting better here. I remember the year I was doing it. I went to America, 2018 it was, and the vegetarian food in the States is just like normal. Like we'd have a veggie patty. It's a veggie burger. Yeah. It tastes exactly like beef.
It's just like that fungi, isn't it? You get that. It's like mushrooms, isn't it? That's what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, with the shape, it's like whenever if I'm not exercising, I'm not eating right, and I'm not drinking. It's like I've read a Jim Carrey quote where he says, I'm not saying mental health doesn't exist, but if you're not drinking, sleeping, and doing exercise, then you're not giving yourself a fighting chance. Do you know what I mean? And it's true. If I'm drinking water and doing my exercise, I'm flying high. Honestly, I'm on top of the world every day. But as soon as that slacks off, sometimes work and kids and everything all gets in the way of it. That's when I sort of my head starts to go. So yeah. It's pretty much like get up in the morning, a few push-ups, a few sit-ups, to be fair, like in my older days, like you might have seen on my Instagram, took up a bit of yoga and that. I'd have I would advise that for anyone, because like going gym and chucking weights about, like that can burn off your steam and all that, and like fair enough. But then yoga stretches, when you're just breathing, do you know what I mean? Just stretching, breathing, sort of calms you down, and you still get that sweat on, you still get that ache, and you obviously still get the benefits from it all.
Well, was it Ryan? I think Ryan Giggs took it up, didn't he, in his late 30s, and he said that's what prolonged his career as long as it did, because of yoga.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. Like I don't necessarily call it yoga. I'm just stretching. Do you know what I mean? I'm just doing some different stretches, different bits and bobs, and yeah, helps you more up here. Do you know what I mean?
Mentally. Yeah, people they do say that,
and as well, my daughter loves it. Sometimes my daughter gets up in the morning, she comes downstairs and on there, and she comes stand next to me. She rings me up on FaceTime. She's like, "You done your exercises today, Dad?" "Yeah." She said, "What did you do?" I said, "I've done my stretches." "Did you do the tree?" You know the thing. "Did you do the tree, Dad?" "Yeah, I've done the tree, don't worry." And then she starts doing it on FaceTime. She loves it.
No, brilliant. Well, listen, Dean, thanks for coming on, buddy. It's been a great speaking to you and sharing your experience and your stories, pal.
Yeah, man. Thank you too. And like I said before, man, shout out for doing this, because honestly, I wish I had this like 7-8 years ago when Finn was a kid. Like I say, and I was questioning myself: am I doing everything right? Am I doing it wrong? And it's good to just talk to other dads. And
we just need to talk. Yeah, and do you know what? When I first started this, the whole thing I said was that I didn't see anywhere for people to speak. But actually, doing this and starting my Instagram page, I've been connecting with more and more people, more and more dad blogs, and there are loads and loads out there, but they're not easy to find. And I think that's the problem. It's if it was much easier to find, people wouldn't think that there's no help, there's no support, you can't talk. It is there. You just have to try and find it. But it is, like you said, it's good to talk. It's good to get people.
And it's like say, just to talk and realise that you're not doing it wrong. Do you know what I mean? There's no right or wrong, man. We're all in different positions. We've all got different situations, different things to deal with. But at the end of the day, we're all still dads, and we all get them same feelings of
100%
missing our kids and feeling like we're not doing enough and all that. Sometimes, like, I've done it before where I've been at my mate's house and I've been like, oh, and he's gone, "What are you on about, man? You always have your kids. Every time I see you, you're with your kids." And I'm like, you know what, bro? I needed to hear that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's nice.
Yeah, no, like I say, it's just for me. The whole point with this was just to get talking, just to get people talking, sharing their stories, and I'm just enjoying doing it, to be completely honest.
Yeah, man, fair play.
So, listen, Dean, good catching up with you, pal.
Cheers, Marco. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.